welcome to this episode of Breck Buzz. I'm Rick Holman, your town manager. Joining me today is our Mayor Pro Tem Wendy Wolf and Council Member Mike Dudek. Thank you both for being here today. As we said here, filming this episode on Thursday, July 6th, we have an active wildland fire going up on the mountain, not too far from this location.
Yeah, well, yesterday was a bit of a scary day. About 3 o'clock in the afternoon, for anyone who was in Breckenridge, they saw the giant plume of smoke that was amazingly visible from right downtown in Breckenridge, and scared us all. So fortunately, today, a day later, with incredible response from Red, White, and Blue, the county, the Forest Service, they were able to get hot shot jumpers in there right away to assess it on the ground, which a lot of times these fires are so dangerous that they can't even get that in there, but they were able to get that there yesterday, as well as helicopters right away, and then eventually one tanker and then a second tanker, and it really helped to put the fire down, and then it laid down last night. Today it's still kind of puffing up, it's still a little bit visible. We haven't totally lifted all of the evacuations. Peak 7 was evacuated yesterday. Gold Hill is on alert. Town of Breckenridge was on alert yesterday. Silver Shekel, all on alert. So kind of a real wake-up call. It just goes to show how quickly things can change. And you know, Rick and I were talking earlier today that's been less than 2 months ago that we got 28 inches of snow on the ground. May 18th, we had a snowstorm. Yep. And now, less than 2 months later, we're fighting wildfires right here in Breckenridge, or very near Breckenridge. And it's kind of a surprising turn of events, but it goes to show just how dangerous it can be, and the fact that wildfires are a real issue, and we need to be prepared. So.
Yeah. We got lucky with the shift of the wind yesterday too.
Yeah.
Because I came in from out of town, like I was telling you guys, and drove down from Eisenhower Tunnel around 2:30 yesterday, and it looked like a volcano was exploding on Gold Hill area.
Yeah, the flames were very visible.
Yeah, that was scary.
Yeah. And I think it's also important for the public to know that, while the Board of County Commissioners from Summit County issued a resolution enacting a open fire ban yesterday, that the town of Breckenridge always has that level 1, what we consider a level 1 fire ban in place at all times. So we do not allow fires in fire pits, in somebody's yard in town. The only open fire that's allowed in the town is in a commercially designed fire structure. We feel that's safer, or their barbecue or gas grill, they're allowed to have a fire. So at this time, we're at that same level of fire ban that the county enacted in the town. And in speaking with other managers in the county, I think all of the communities are looking to make sure that we're all at that same level as of today. Certainly we need people to use common sense, and it's a shame. I was telling you right before we started filming, we still have people shooting off fireworks out there, and we have committed, and we talked about it this morning with the other managers and mayors, to have a zero tolerance for illegal fireworks going on. It is too dry in our county, and there's no place for that. And so we have asked the police to take enforcement action if they see that occurring. So
as they should. I mean, our job as town council, I think, is to, first and foremost, is protection of the health and human services of people in this community. And that's just silly, stupid stuff for people to be shooting fireworks off when there's 200-foot high flames a mile down the road. Yeah.
We also know and heard from some of the residents that they didn't get the alerts yesterday, and so we'll need to reassess kind of where we are on getting people signed up for all the right alerts. That's a really important step in all of this process to keep people safe, and it worked pretty well. We had a great response overall, but there's a few things that we're going to evaluate here, and
I think staff in general, between the county and the towns, is aware of that, and they're hearing that in the last day. And you're right, we will address this when this incident is over and look at how we do a better job of educating and walking people through that sign-up process. And so that's an important tool that has to work.
Yeah,
So, yeah.
exactly.
Okay, let's move on and talk a little bit about what's been going on
The fun
the last
stuff.
couple of months. Yeah, we've had a lot of great things happening, and unfortunately, Mike, in the last council meeting, we got some rather unfortunate news, and I'm sure many of our viewers read about it in the paper, but the dam that we have out at the Tarn, the Blue River Tarn, is failing. And what does that mean for the town of Breckenridge and the people around this area?
Well, it means we're going to write a big check to fix this thing, because that's a primary reservoir supply source for the town. And I think that with this fire and this damage to the dam, it needs to get fixed. One of the things that we talked about and we approved earlier this spring was a new $53 million water treatment facility. And we talked about it then to provide redundancy in the event that there was some kind of catastrophic event that happened to the south end of town and damaged the water supply and made Breckenridge unlivable for a period of time. So we decided, we pulled the trigger on building a second water plant near Lake Dillon. And but we were scared about a fire and weren't really worrying about dam leaks. And it turns out that we need, in order to fix the dam, we need a second water treatment plant in order to continue to process water. So we have to take the one water treatment facility plant down at Goose Pasture Tarn for a period of time while we fix the dam. And I'm grateful that we decided as a council to spend the time and the money to go through the process to decide to build a water treatment plant, because we all knew that something was out there. And today and yesterday, that something's real, and with the fire. But the dam is separate from the water treatment plant, but we need to get that fixed as well. So we'll have the two water treatment facilities eventually, and we'll start fixing the dam in 3 to 4 years or so, in that time range.
Yeah.
And it's going to be, nothing's ever, I think, accurate when it comes to cost estimates. At least that's my experience.
Especially 4 years out.
Right,
Yeah.
4 years from now, we're going to
Yeah.
start building that, repairing the dam, but on the magnitude of $20 million. And I think that that's one of the challenges that as a council we'll have, is to figure out how we pay for that. Because it's not like we're going to be able to dip in endlessly into the savings that the town has to pay for capital things like this that are unexpected, to say the least.
Yeah.
And so it was, I don't know about you, Wendy, but to me it was a jaw dropper to hear the amount of money we're going to spend to fix this thing.
Yeah, and I mean, it's maybe not so surprisingly with a dam that's nearly 50 years old,
Yep.
that it's starting to show some signs of weakness. I think that it just makes this second water treatment plant completely important and inevitable. And we can't waste any more time getting going on it. So we're getting it started, and people should start to see some vertical construction here pretty soon on some of that. We have some mitigation to do with some of the existing buildings and clear the site, and then we'll start construction on that water plant very soon.
And I think our citizens need to know that there's not an imminent danger of the dam failing.
That's right.
And so when we're fortunate that we've got the plan in place to build a second treatment facility so that we can turn one off and turn the other one back on. But there's things we can do along the way to mitigate and make sure that there's not an imminent risk of, a gusher coming down through the valley.
The first thing we've done is lower the
right.
level so that it's not so much pressure on the spillway. It's actually the spillway that's showing the weakness.
Right.
So that really helps. And then there's some more steps that can be done in the event that that's not enough. So, we don't want to be this way for too many years, but the state and the consultants who have looked at it believe that we'll do fine for 3 or 4 years till
We're okay for now.
Yeah.
Well, and in the audience last Tuesday when we had this discussion were representatives from the state of Colorado Dam Engineers Office, who monitors all the safety specifics of dams around the state. And trust me, they would not allow us to go through with this plan if they didn't feel that the right precautions were in place to monitor. And we do have those things in place that monitor the water level within the ground and all of that. But standards have changed. We've become smarter and learned more. And so I believe this dam was built in 1965.
Right.
And you're right, it's 50 years old. And our
52.
water,
I was born in 65, so it's 52 years old.
and our water treatment plant is nearing 50 years old. So while these are big investments, they are long-term investments in our community that are built to last. They cost a lot, but they'll last a lot of years,
Right.
and we take care of them, and it's part of what we need. So. Yeah.
And I think that our group led by Rick, we're smart enough to figure out sensible ways to pay for this too. It's not like we're not going to go broke because we have to fix the dam. And we look at something that has a 50-year shelf life or longer. We've got a long period of time to pay for it, which is the good news. And we've got time to get it fixed the right way.
Right.
And we had half of the money already allocated for future years in there for repairs. So it wasn't a complete sticker shock to us. We knew some of this was coming. We just have to come up with some additional dollars to do it. So there is money set aside for some of those repairs already.
Yep.
Good. So we had that. We have a lot of things coming up in the next couple meetings with the council. This Tuesday, July 11th, those of you that are able and interested, the council will be getting a presentation on the feasibility of a gondola system. We've been talking for a while about, how do we move people? Do we park? Do we build additional parking in the core of town? Do we try to capture people at the edge of town and have some sort of a people mover like a gondola bringing them in? And so we hired a company out of Frisco, and they're going to present on July 11th.
The council decided that while we were looking at all things parking and transit, that it would be prudent to look at people moving systems. And some of the most interesting systems out there being used not just for skiing, but in places all over the world are gondolas. And so this council said, let's make sure, let's take a look at this and see what it would cost, see what the feasibility of putting one kind of north and south through our town might be like. And that's what we're going to hear about. Now, we think it's going to be mighty expensive, but at least we'll know. We want to have definitive answers. A lot of our community has said and brought up independently, wouldn't a gondola be an interesting solution to some of this? And it would be. So, but we'll just have to find out how that really fits in with the total picture. And but I think it's really good that we're looking at it and that it's not just a witch hunt. It's a prudent exercise.
Well, and I think that, and I totally agree with you, and I think that one of the things that's exciting for me to hear about this when we talk about it next week is that it's a green alternative to what we currently have, which are buses driving around the community and creating more congestion and more traffic. And the wait times for a gondola are very fast.
Yeah.
There's 8 people every 5 seconds or whatever 30 seconds or whatever it is. And so it's a very efficient and sensible way for people and intuitive for our guests to understand this is how I can get from point A to point B, and I don't have to get on a bus, I don't have to wait. So I think there's I think there's a sense of excitement that we're having enough vision to say, let's take a look at things that we haven't done before. And thanks to the voters passing in, what was that, November of 15, the lift ticket tax, which has a floor of $3.5 million, is going to go up by a couple percent each year as lift ticket prices rise. We have the capacity, not only for, this is different from water and dams, but we have the capacity to borrow a lot of money with a fixed revenue stream from the tax to come in and make even the conversation about a gondola possible, in addition to parking structures and potentially more roundabouts, and just try and think 20 years or 40 years into the future about what Breckenridge can be like. And I don't think that we're any longer in a place where we can shut the barn door and stop the growth in this community. 10,000 people a month are moving, 10,000 a month are moving to Denver right now. We're only going to get more busy. And so our responsibility, whether it's water or transportation or parking, is to manage our success, not be afraid of it, but to manage it. And we've got the financial capacity and I think the vision with the community to make some really good things happen.
Yeah.
And it's exciting. It's an exciting time.
So on July 11th, you'll hear about the gondola, and on July 25th, our parking structure consultant will come in and spend time with the council.
I can't wait for this because I'm sure when you talk to people too that oh, I've been hearing about parking structures for 30 years. It's never going to happen. You guys aren't going to. We're going to build some parking structures. The question is, it's not if, it's where, and it's not if, it's how many more parking spaces we're going to add to this community to like better manage our success. And I'm really psyched about it. When we talked in February about this. With the $3.5 million, we probably have a borrowing capacity in the $75 million range, which would allow us to do 750 or 1,000 more parking spaces, other transit things, whether they're roundabouts or gondolas. There's a lot of capacity to free up to make Breckenridge better and to get some cars off the streets and make it a much more livable place. And so I'm really excited about it.
Of course, we don't want to scare the viewers, and we don't want them thinking we're going to build a 1,000-space structure.
No.
In the core of town.
No, sorry.
So where we're at in terms of what might be in play is that, first of all, we tried one more time to negotiate a little bit with the ski area and see whether any of their properties could be possible or feasible. And we're past that now. We realize that we're in different places than they are, and so we're focusing on town-owned property. So when we speak of town-owned property, what are we talking about? We're talking about, of course, F-lot, which we've been talking about for a long time. But F-lot is an interesting place in that it touches then on that Tiger Dredge lot, which runs along the Riverwalk. They're at two different elevations. So F-lot kind of sits up higher, Tiger Dredge down lower. It presents an interesting opportunity to put a right-sized parking structure, not a very large-sized parking structure, but some incremental spots worth doing. So that's still in play, and we're taking a strong look at that. The other place that's in play is what we call the Sawmill Wellington lot, which is over closer to the gondola. But that Sawmill lot is a narrow strip that runs behind kind of that Main Street area where the warming hut had been.
Right behind the gold pan.
Yeah, gold pan, right. Yeah. And so it's kind of a narrow lot, but then that touches also on the Wellington, which then touches Main Street. So there's some interesting combo of property. That one might be a little more expensive than we want to pull the trigger on, but don't know yet. And then the other one that's still in play, is the ice rink. And the ice rink is probably a very efficient spot, but a little bit further away from town. But we know that an awful lot of our folks arrive from the south, and it could be used to capture from the south and then use bus service to come into town. So those are kind of our 3 points of emphasis.
Yeah.
And each of them have their own set of pros and cons. And what the council will be hearing on the 25th is the feasibility of each of those locations, and what's the right size for that. So when you're building structures, you look at the area of land that you have to build on, and it dictates the efficiencies of each stall in the build. And so the higher the efficiency number, the higher the cost.
And of course, then that also starts to give us clues as to what we do next to fix Park Avenue. And we know that Park Avenue continues to be a concern. We've just come through a big, transition there with the 4 o'clock roundabout. But there's more work to be done on Park Avenue, and if we put a structure in F-lot Tiger Dredge, that will have ingress, egress things to work out. So
there's so many different issues involved with this to try and get it right.
Yeah.
And I'm really happy that we're being patient about going. And I never meant to say we're going to build a 1,000-space parking structure. Yeah. But there's there's 3 different areas in town that you identified. I think one thing that people probably don't know is that when the CDOT group did the study on the feasibility of F-lot, they said that for F-lot, the max we could add to F-lot was 200 more spaces, max. And ideally it'd be 150. And so there was talk a couple of years ago about building 700 or 900 parking spaces there. That's not going to happen. So Tiger Dredge lower, you can probably put, and FLOT has its constraints because it touches Highway 9.
Yeah.
And so CDOT has ultimate control over how much we put on a parking structure that ingresses and egresses onto their state highway.
Right.
And so we have to be good partners with CDOT and figure out what is the right size solution, which is why I think that I have this feeling this is going to turn out to be multiple parking structures over a period of time to get us to a better place, rather than just one big monolith in the gondola lots or Gold Rush or anything like that. I think that we're going about it the right way, and I think that Rick had a great point about this, is that because when we talked with the ski resort about potentially doing a deal on Gold Rush, I think, and you're right, that the reality is that 8 months of the year the thing would sit empty because it's not convenient to the core of downtown. Whereas the land that we own in town at Sawmill, Wellington, FLOT, Tiger Dredge, Ice Rink is convenient to the guests and the employees in our community. And so I feel like we're on the right track, and I'm going to look forward to saying "I told you so." Those people saying you're never going to build parking, because we're going to get this council's going to get it done.
Yeah. Well, and I also think that in the end, having kind of smaller structures really fits the character of the community much better anyway. You know, we've looked at everything that we can look at, and now we're kind of back to 1 or 2, maybe 3, but they'll be smaller. And like Mike said, they'll be in places where the employees, because this is also to serve not just the skier. We want it to be convenient for the skiers, but we also want it to serve our employees and our residents. So I think we're onto the right thing, and I too, I'm psyched to get going on it.
That's 3 of us, because I am anxiously awaiting July 25th. I think it's something that we've all been waiting for. I think we're ready to make some decisions and get into the planning phase so that we can be in the ground, possibly in 2018, starting to build this thing. And I think that we're hoping that that's the first step in making those, and we might get a decision made that day.
Yeah.
It's been a great process, because when we started in February and said, okay, how much can we build? We've got this money from the tax revenue. What can we do with it? And we came up with a 30,000 foot plan. And now we're going to get on the 25th kind of into the weeds on this to figure out what's really feasible.
Right, yeah.
Not just doing stuff on the back of a napkin and spreadsheets, but say, okay, here's the piece of real estate. What can we really build there? And what's sensible, and trying to be very prudent about all the things that go with building these parking structures, getting people in and out. And I think that I'm excited for what's going to happen here.
And when we talk about the lift ticket tax money and the revenues that come in, building capacity is just part of that. And we have been talking to the community for a long time now about what we've added to our transit system. And part of that money is towards those transit improvements. I mean, we've increased our transit budget by over $1.5 million in the last 12 months, and it's going to go up again in 2018, because we're adding one more route with the second trolley that we've ordered. And so every time you add a route, it takes 3 to 4 people to staff that route. But those are good. I mean, there's no doubt we will hit, I should say no doubt, but I'm very comfortable that we are going to hit 1 million riders in just 2017.
Yeah.
So this will be the first year we hit 1 million riders in
But it shows,
1 year.
it works.
I mean, we're over halfway there.
Folks are really responsive to the free ride bus system, and we're getting better at doing. We're going to also add technology to it. We won't call it the next bus, but people know it as kind of next bus. So either on an app or in some more heavily used bus stop locations, there'll be a screen that tells you when the next bus is going to arrive. And all of this is just going to add to the convenience of using the bus more. And the more we use the bus, the fewer the cars. This all starts to work together. And so it's
and improving the walkability with that in town.
Well, it's a testament too to the paid parking that we started in December of 2016, and the ridership on the buses went through the roof because people stopped. Locals, employees stopped driving their car into town and taking up tourist parking spaces and got on the buses instead. And so not only we opened up parking spaces by having paid parking, but we're being greener about the way we're going about commuting throughout our community. And so they're all great numbers. I don't know what the percentage is. It's up, the ridership this year, but like you said, 1 million
I
riders.
believe it's 14% up
Yeah.
year to date.
And that's just, there's paid parking for you right
Yeah.
there. I mean,
Yeah, plus we're just adding, we're more knowledgeable about the routes that really help people get through town, and we've made some adjustments, and we've gotten great response from that.
Yeah.
We also added that experimental route up to the Upper Warriors Mark, and that has proven to be effective, and we're going to continue with that, and see if there's other areas in town that we need to add on to, and so this is good. Transit is working.
Yeah. And one of you mentioned briefly, and I don't want to gloss over this, the new roundabout that just got opened, because that was
long time.
last Friday,
Yeah.
right? June 30th. At 12 noon, it was scheduled, it was on time, it came in on budget and on time, and it was not a minute too early, that's for sure.
Oh, no, and thanks to the residents who, one, put up with our dust, and then secondly, really were persistent in talking to us about the safety issue there. And it was becoming a dangerous situation with pedestrians trying to cross at that intersection. And, so we have put this roundabout. It has really calmed the speed of the traffic down, which is what it was designed to do. It allows for pedestrians to cross at designated crossing areas, and I've been through that roundabout now numerous times, and I love it. I think it's working very well.
Well, plus you can make a left-hand turn off of 4 o'clock on the Park Avenue, which you
There
could
is
not
that.
do in the wintertime or busy summer weekends before.
Yeah. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
It really is. It's almost like a piece of art out there.
Yeah.
Our staff did a great job. It was designed just fabulous, and I was so proud to see that thing open.
Yeah.
that
People on
day.
Friday were telling us, this looks like it's been here all along. And, I backed up and looked at it. They're right, it does.
Yeah.
But what took us so long?
Well, and the
took a
next
long
phase,
time.
which this late fall, early fall, I guess, in mid-September, we're going to start just completing that walkway from the roundabout down into the Blue River Plaza, and that'll be heated and better lighting and better grade, and that will really help those people feeling comfortable in walking down. Right, so many people live up 4 O'Clock Road, and it's a relatively short distance to walk if you can make it a comfortable walk, and so that's just the next step. And everything that we're doing to try to manage, I think, congestion and the flow of people and cars in town.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know how many times I heard when we were going through these studies on 4 o'clock, people getting in their car, leaving their condo on vacation, and spending 45 minutes circling town to go 200 yards away from where they're staying. And so I think that we're aware, beyond gondolas and roundabouts and parking structures, that creating a more walkable community is another way that we can help ease congestion issues in our town.
We're sensitive to the stargazing, but lighting these days is so smart, and it's so much better than it used to be in terms of what it can do. And so we're tapped into those lighting sources and making this lighting as smart as we can, and not hurting their ability to see the stars at night. And this makes a lot of sense. We also are trying to still protect the nice, soft ambient light that we have in town.
Yep.
And so we're respectful of all of that, but there's a lot we can do, and we're starting to do those things, and I think it's
I like having it because I like to say to Rick, I like to take Buddha for a walk every day. So.
It doesn't hurt.
Believe me.
We're talking a lot about celebrating things that have been going on, and that's good. That means we're having lots of accomplishments. Another celebration that the general public may not have noticed is we had our first group of people moving into Denison Commons this past Saturday on July 1st. Those are those 3 buildings just on the south side of Colorado Mountain College. There's 30 units, 10 units in each of those buildings, and we master leased 2 of those buildings, and we just approved that, and we're signing that master lease with Colorado Mountain College. And they will probably ultimately buy all three, and that was part of our planned partnership with them. But we're retaining one building right now while they kind of learn how to operate housing. But people were moving in, and it's a great feeling to know that we're making those housing accomplishments.
And those units are awesome.
Yeah.
You know, they're just nicely done, nicely landscaped. You know, I think they've got great views. It's going to be awesome housing. So
well, in the housing needs assessment, the 30,000 foot is that we need 1,300 more bedrooms in Breckenridge to meet our current demand. And with this and what we got going on at Dennis and Placer next door, I think that the town can deliver between 50 and 75 units a year should we choose to push those go buttons. Mm-hmm. And working with public-private partnerships or just the town itself, everybody's aware of the needs that we have to provide adequate amount of housing, because that's the lifeblood of and the sustainability of our community, is making sure we have enough workers to support the economy that we have here in Breckenridge. And so we know what we need to do. We can only build so fast and do it in a responsible fashion, but we can have a great mix of different kinds of places, whether they're really low AMI, really very, very affordable units for rent or for sale, and throughout the entire spectrum. So whether it's just the single person living in town or it's the family of 4 or 5, I think that the information that we're getting as a council is going to allow us to build in a responsible, right way, and we'll get there eventually. You know, this isn't like the parking deal where everyone's been hearing about it for 30 years. You can actually see buildings going up. We're still going to get the parking thing done, but we're on top of it.
As a matter of fact, we're coming out of the ground right now with the second part of the Denison project. We used to call it Denison 1, and now we just renamed it. And I saw the look on your
Thank
face
God.
when we gave the name. The name, I was on the naming committee, so you can't.
No, I like it.
Yeah, so we're calling it now Blue 52, and the rationale behind this name, it was selected, that the name was offered up by a person in our community who won a pair of skis. That was nice. And
I thought it was Peyton Manning saying Omaha, Omaha, when he said Blue 52.
It sounds kind of like that, but we think it's kind of has that nice young hip feel, which this
great.
with this housing is going to feel that way. And it's 52 units, for sale units, and these units will be finished by the end of the year. And it is
First phase.
Yes.
Yeah. 17 units.
Yeah. So it'll be starting to be moved into by the end of the year, and it's on the blue. So Blue River, so Blue 52. So there you go.
Oh, that's why. Okay.
Yeah.
And the council, along with the county commissioners, will be cutting the ribbon, and people will be moving into Huron Landing in less than 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So,
26 units.
right off of across just up the road from 7-Eleven, and that's 26 2-bedroom units. So, you've been hearing us talk about these things for the last 18 months, and now they're done.
Yeah.
And people are starting to move in, so that's great.
And Wendy and I are lucky enough to be on the housing committee with the town and to get to work on this in a more detailed fashion than some of the other members of the town council. So if you have questions or suggestions about what we could or should do, please talk to one of us, because we don't have all the answers.
Yeah.
But we want to figure out, we know I think we know the direction we want to go, and we got to figure out the best way to get there.
Yeah, and we even have some RFPs out to look at the next phase. Mm-hmm. And we're still kind of kicking around what all goes into that. So we're still, working on what meets the needs of our community, and it's exciting work.
Yeah.
Yep.
So as we're kind of wrapping up this session, maybe we could just take the last couple of minutes and talk about some legislative action that the council had taken in the last 2 months. And one of those, after quite a bit of discussion, the council had decided to enact term limits on 3 of our council-appointed boards. So the council appoints members of our planning commission, also our Breckenridge Open Space Advisory Committee, and also our Marijuana and Liquor Authority Board. And those are the 3 what we call official boards that are appointed by the town council. And so, Mike, explain what was the rationale behind making term limits on those?
In my mind, it was about always having fresh ideas and not getting stagnant with not that anyone that served on any of these committees didn't add a lot to them, but having new ideas, new faces, new energy, I think is a good thing. We're term limited.
Yeah, right.
And so I think that it's completely appropriate that the people that we appoint, that they kind of play by the same rules as us. And so I think that it's a good step. It doesn't mean if you get term limited from BOSAC that you can't go serve on planning commission. You can. And you can move around to different areas of interest. And so I think that it's a really positive step for Breckenridge, and it creates a structure so that you don't feel obligated to keep voting for the same person to be there. Every 4 years or every 2 years or whatever those different terms are. But everybody knows the ground rules up front, that you're going to be here for a while, and then there's going to be a change. And I think that it's good to have that published. And it's good for people to understand that.
And we've seen a huge increase in the interest of our boards too.
And that's if we get to a point where we don't have enough people applying, but that has not been the case. Recently, we've been introduced to many very qualified people we'd love to see serve in the community, and so term limits also enables more people to come and apply and rotate in and rotate off.
Excellent point.
So Planning Commission, those have been approved, both readings by the council. Planning Commission is 3 4-year terms. BOSAC and the Marijuana and Liquor Authority are 2 4-year terms. And the council did 1 additional term for Planning Commission because that is such a complicated, with the comprehensive code that they have to learn, that we really wanted people to kind of hit their stride and spend some time in there before their term expired. So
I think that was really a smart thing to do, to have 3 terms for the Planning Commission. I mean, I build resorts in town, and I've been doing this for 20 whatever years, and I can't keep up with all this stuff. I don't know how these guys do volunteering twice a month.
And for a long time, not only Breckenridge, but other resort communities, we deal with the shortage of housing, and many people will say, and you read a lot about, a lot of that is due to the increase in companies like Airbnb, VRBO, and how easy it is for somebody to decide that they want to start to short-term their property out there. And so there are a number of things that we're seeing communities do to help address the short-term rentals. And one of those that we looked at is to make sure that those people are licensed within the town. And it's sometimes difficult to determine. So there was an ordinance that was recently passed by the council dealing with the requirements to post that license when they advertise.
Right. So any advertisement now that anyone does, if they're short-term renting their property, will need to have their bolt license number displayed on the ad, and that will give us the opportunity to check this out and see whether they're registered properly and accordingly paying the tax. The town doesn't intend to be heavy-handed with it. If we know that some people may kind of get into this and not realize that they need to obtain a bolt license, which is something that costs them in the range of $100 or so, depending on the number of bedrooms in their unit. And so it just gives us a way to track all of this and make sure that they're paying their taxes.
Well, I think that's the primary reason to do it, because it creates a element of fairness that we may not necessarily have had before, because the lodging tax all in is 11 1/8%. And so if someone was Airbnb or VRBO and they weren't collecting the lodging tax, they start out the gates with an 11% advantage over their competition. That's just not fair.
Right.
And so I think that this allows a way to make sure that everyone is collecting and paying the lodging tax, and so that someone doesn't have we have no idea how much extra is going to come in from this, because we don't know how much we were potentially missing before. But at a minimum, in my mind, to vote yes for that, it was about creating a level playing field for people, and I think that's important.
And the taxes go to help provide the infrastructure that when we go back and talk about the tarn and a second water treatment plant and road improvements and transit and free ride bus systems. This is all provided by the taxes that we collect in town. And so it's really important in order to keep up the level of service that we have everyone who's doing business in town paying the appropriate taxes.
Yeah, and I think the number, if I recall right, was over $130 million in lodging taxable revenue last year. So 11% of that coming into town. Who knows if there's if we're losing 50% of that lodging revenue because people weren't playing by the rules, then that does help pay for lots of different things, in addition to creating a level playing field.
Right.
And we did work closely with our lodging community because we have a number of property management firms in town. And we wanted to make sure that what we were doing wasn't too onerous for them, and we got their buy-in. And we even made some minor adjustments to the language for their benefit.
Yeah.
So,
So if we notice somebody, they'll be given a chance to
30
get it
days.
right. Yeah.
30 days to
so-
come into compliance.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
that's really what it's about. So.
Yep.
Well, I want to thank you both for joining me here today, and we'll look forward to coming back at our next episode of Breck Buzz. Thank you.